Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am the FS Coach, and in this video, I'll be demonstrating how the TDI Smart Money Indicator and the EA, how it works both on TradingView and on MT4. So if you like to take your own trade yourself, determine where you put your stop loss, determine where you put your take profit, then you might want to go for the TradingView indicator or the MT4 indicator. But if you want a full automation whereby the robot takes the trade for you, determine the stop loss, determine the take profit, then you might want to consider the EA. Now, let's dive into the video. So I share with you how it all works. Now on my screen, you can see the MT4, EA. So the EA has been installed on this left side and on the right side, right? And the difference between the results you are seeing here and the results you are seeing here is just because Fibonacci is on in this example and the Fibonacci is off in this example. But first, let me explain how this indicator and how this EA works once again. First of all, you can see this very nice dashboard that shows you like a summary of what the indicator is doing. And there's a piece at the bottom here that also tells you how it's performed relatively if you are working on a prop firm account. So it shows you when you pass level 1, it shows you when you pass level 2 based on the um prop firm rule that you are trading with. Okay, now first of all is that you see the name, you see the pair you are trading, you also see the time frame, and first you see the mode, which is aggressive. So you can switch between aggressive mode and conservative mode. So aggressive mode, what it means is that it can take multiple trades when the signal comes up. It can take more than one trade, even though one trade is still continuing. For instance, as you can see here, let's say after taking this buy, if a after taking this sell and a buy setup comes here, it will still take the buy, even though the sell is still running, right? So that is what aggressive mode does. So it picks on any trade as long as the condition to take the trade is satisfied. It picks the trade. But if you're on conservative mode, it only picks one trade at a time. It is after a trade close, that's when it's going to pick up the next trade. So if you want to be more aggressive, then you can go for aggressive mode. If you want to be more conservative, then you can stick to conservative mode. You will see the advantage and disadvantage of both method. Then zone, you can decide to on Fibonacci zone. So Fibonacci zone simply means if you want to take continuation or reversal. If you are conversant with my channel, you will know how I trade. I trade based on levels and structure. So if the market is on a key zone like a demand and supply zone, I want to take a buy. If the market is on level 51, between level 50 and 61, and I'm seeing some TDI reaction, then I want to take a buy at that zone. So for instance, I'll just give you an instance where Fibonacci works. So let's say I draw a Fibonacci level between this high and this low, for instance, right? And the market is rejecting from this zone, level 50 and 61. You can see level 50 and 61, then it can pick this sell, if the market retraces back to this one. So it will take this sell, for instance, if the trend is, it depends if the trend is on or off. I'll get to that. But so what the indicator does and the EA does back end is that it determines the high, the low, do a Fibonacci, then picks the trade either buy or sell, depending on if the market is reacting on this key level. So that is what that means if it's taking trade from Fibonacci. And support and resistance, as you all know, this is a support zone right here, and that is why it's picking up this buy at this zone. So it depends if there is an active demand and supply zone, then it also picks up on a trade. So it's picking up some buy trades there because of the demand zone around this level. Okay, I will demonstrate this more clearly when we move to TradingView. Then you can see how the indicator works, because this is an EA, so you might not see why it's picking trade as each of these levels, right? So you can also filter by EMA, which is the moving average. So at the moment, I use 50 and 200 moving averages. Okay, which means it will only take buy when the 50 moving average crosses above the 200 moving average. And as you can see, all through this period, the EA is only taking buy trade. Remember, this is a supply zone right here. Okay, you can see this supply zone. Let me draw this. You can see this supply zone right here. Okay, if I decide not to turn on the EMA filter, I'm 100% certain that this EA would have taken a sell trade at this point. Also, there is a resistance zone right here. If I don't turn on this EMA filter, it will have picked a lot of sell trades at this zone, right? So it all has its own advantage and disadvantages, all right? So if you decide to turn it off, you have more trades, which means you are also subjected to more risk, right? I will also demonstrate that to you. I've backtested this EA across different markets, uptrend, downtrend, ranging markets, and it has performed so well. And I will also get to that when I'm talking about the indicator. So you can decide to turn it on, then you can decide to turn it off. So you can also decide to turn HMA off on. Now HMA is the old moving average, which looks more smoother compared to the moving average. Okay, so I'll just install one for you to see how it works. So it looks like this. If I set EMA 80 for instance, you can see how it moves. So it's in an uptrend when the color is blue, which means when it is blue, it will only be picking buy trade. All this period that is red, it will only be picking a sell trade. And this is how it works. So if I'm using HMA for instance, it will not pick up on this sell because HMA is blue showing uptrend at this period. But because I'm using only EMA is downtrend, you can see 50 crosses below the 200, and that's why it's picking up some sell at this zone. So you might decide to turn EMA filter on or off. It depends on how you want to use the indicator. Okay, now level guide. So what level guide means is that if you turn it on, it will be very selective with how it picks on trade. So I will demonstrate this to you as well. So I will install the TDI indicator for instance, so you see how it works. So I'll just put everything as false because I don't want it to interfere with what I'm showing at the moment. So now if it is false, it will only take buy when the TDI is crossing below level 50. So level 50 is right here. It will only pick sell when it is crossing from above level 50. So just as this and it just depends. So if the market is within overbought and oversold period, that's going to determine whether it takes buy or sell. So this is just like an extra guide if you want to give the EA a stricter rule. So for this example now, you can see it's taking this sell at this zone because it is well above the level 50. So you can take this sell. It's just like saying you are selling from the oversold period, okay, and you are buying from the overbought period, something like that. So you are buying discount, selling the premium, something like that. All right. So it just gives you like a guide. If, for instance, this is crossing below this zone, it will not take this sell because it is crossing below, just below the level 50. So that is what this level guide does. It just tries to prevent you from taking some trades that are not from a very key level. All right, but I decided to turn it on off because the demand and supply rule is already a well guided rule. Okay, now the other details is basket trade. So it shows you the number of baskets that is on either one or two. So if you are using aggressive, for instance, and I said you can take more than one trade at a time, so you can see the basket. So it will tell you if two baskets is running, which means two independent trades is running at a time. And if it is three baskets, three independent trades is running at a time. Then it shows you the number of orders. So number of orders will relatively be lower than the basket. Okay. So if it's just if a basket already has, maybe it has taken like two extra trades just to close early, and the number of orders is just three. So basket will be three, while the number of orders will be like five because one trade has already taken two more extra trades. Okay, you might not need all this complexity, but just for you to understand what is happening. Then you can see your overall lot that you have used on a particular trade. then you see the floating profit or loss. So this float now combines, it's just like the floating you will see on your MT4 trader, all right? And if the EA is generating any error, you will see the error code here, and then we will be able to fix it. Then you can see the grid step. So I'm saying in this take that if this market move against me 50 pips, then you need to take another trade in the same direction so that when there's a slight reversal, I'll be able to close early. Okay, and you get to understand this also in the presentation. So the number of max at 99, you can just keep this to be 2, 3, it doesn't mean anything. So it depends on the number of grid step that the EA can take. So basically, in this example, it takes 3, right? So you might decide to just keep this as 3 on 1 just to keep the EA in check. Then the locked factor is the multiple of how it's going to take the next trade. So if you're on a sell, for instance, and it's going to take the next sell at this point, from the same grid basket. So it's saying times 2. So if you use 0.1 initially, the next trade that's going to take will be 0.12, right? Because it's a multiple of 1.2. Okay, so now this other information tells us about the lot mode. So you can set it to fixed lot, which means if you say use 0.1 lot, it will keep using 0.1 lot, and you can decide to say use risk percentage. So in this case, the EA will calculate where you want to put your stop loss, and then will determine where your TP and your stop loss will be, okay, depending on the number of risk percentage you want to take. I've also showed you this later. So in this case, I'm using a fixed lot, and this fixed lot use a base lot of 0.1, risking 1%. So if you're using percentage use, you can say I want to risk 1% on every trade, or I want to risk 0.1 on every trade. You can do that. Then basket TP is, T pips from break even. You have several options to choose here. My stop loss is also money, and so you can see more detailed here. So stop loss is $1,000 stop loss. TP is 150 pips, and after a grid, reduce my TP to 200 pips, and you have this nice dashboard that shows you the profit you made for the day, the profit you made for the week, the profit you made for the month, and the profit you've made overall. Then this little stuff here shows you anytime you breach any of these drawdown rule, basically just to show you an overview if this EA will be able to pass a 4FM challenge or not. Okay, so when you say daily drawdown, it keeps reading once you are in drawdown, right? And you just follow the normal rule: 5% daily drawdown and then 10% maximum drawdown. So it can fail any of these two, depending on how it works, and then you can see the overall profit. So when it pass level 1, then it move from pass, then move to level 2, right? So it moves like that. And then you can see the total win, 94, you can see total loss, you can see the win rate, you can see the total trade. Now, the reason why I decided to split my screen in this case is so that you can see the difference between the settings here and the settings here. Okay, both actually uses the same settings, and the only difference in these two scenarios now is that I decided to on both Fibonacci and demand and supply zone in this example, and in this example, Fibonacci is off and demand and supply zone is on, both at 0.5. Okay, I will also explain what the 0.5 stands for. Okay, now in this example, you can see that just turning on Fibonacci means we can get more signal, because now the EA is looking at demand and supply zone, also looking at Fibonacci zone. So this gives you chances of having more trades compared to when Fibonacci is off. And as you can see, when Fibonacci is off, it only has 173 trades, but when Fibonacci is on, it has 303 trades. And the whole period for this backtest now is from August 1st, 2025 till December 14th, 2025, quite recent. Okay, now, and you can see the win rate here is also 52.1, even though it takes more trade. And what happened is that the result for this one is $150 for the day, 836 for the week, 1,390 for the month, and overall from August to December it made over $10,000. Okay, and you can see it also passed. But the but here now is that this completely passed the prop firm challenge, and I'm going to show you that this is on the $25,000 prop firm account, which means it has a daily drawdown of 1,250 drawdown. But this also passed, but it has it at some point breached the daily drawdown limit, and I'm going to show you how that happened. So that's why I'm presenting this to you, so that you see the advantage and disadvantages of you know chasing more trades and chasing fewer trades. I'm not saying to be this case all the time, but in this example, that is the case. You can see we made more money in terms of profit, but at some point we had higher drawdown limit. So this is another example from this trend that you can see here. So this is to just to show you how the EA was. As you can see, it's steadily continues to move in an upward trajectory, and this is like a drawdown. Okay, so this is what you get when you have a drawdown, or you have your stop loss triggered, stop loss, stop loss, stop loss, stop loss, stop loss. But overall, you can see that the trend is quite good. It's moving. Your portfolio is growing, your money is growing. So it started from 25,000 and ended at 33,006 or 7, something like that. And I'm going to show you this result as well. So as you can see, this also works with the lot size now is 0.1. It takes 0.1, but at some point when it has to take a good step, it takes 0.12. Okay, and like I said, the TP is 150 pips. So basically on any trade, it make about 150 pips. You can decide to increase it, and I'll show you from the settings, and you can see the report. 25,000. It means about 20,000 profit, minus 11,000 loss. And all the information you can get from backtest. Okay, so I'm going to show you the settings and how you can work around it. Okay, now, so everything I've shown you and I've explained on the dashboard, here is where the settings is coming from. Okay, now, like I said, the entry mode, you can decide to be aggressive or you can decide to be conservative. It depends on how you want to trade. So aggressive takes any trade that comes up, conservative takes one trade at a time. Okay, you can decide to turn on the three signal, TDI cross, market baseline, and shark fin. I've explained all these three signals in my YouTube, so you can watch if you want to learn more about this. So this is the level guide. You can decide to turn it on, put it to zone, put it to crossing 50. Depends on how you want to put it. Then you can also, filter where you want your midpoint to be. That determines overbought and oversold period. Then trend filter, you can decide to on it. Then you set your fast and slow moving average. In my case, I love to use 50 and 200 exponential moving average. You can also decide to turn on, HMA if you want to give it more stricter rule. So in this point, this is where you can adjust your supply and demand and Fibonacci level. Okay, so in this case, I've decided to put the zone to 1, and I will explain this when we move to TradingView. How changing from 1 to 0.5 can influence the number of trades that you get at each point. Okay, so you can also decide to turn off supply and demand zone if you don't want to use supply and demand zone. You just want to trade based on TDI, and this is Fibonacci. You can also turn it on or off. So this is where I was explaining about lot size. You can decide to use risk percentage or fixed lot depending on how you want your trade, to be, or how you plan your risk management. Sometimes if I want to use 1:2, I use the risk percentage and decide. So if you set it to risk percentage, for instance, you will need to put the percentage you want to use. So in this example, it is 1%. You can decide to use 2%, and it asks you, how do you want me to calculate the lot size to use? Because you are saying use 1%, then what is the right lot size that will determine 1% of your account? So that is where this other line comes in, to say, okay, I want my stop loss to be 100 pips while losing 1% of my account. Okay, so it calculates what lot size do you need to use such that when the market moves against you to your stop loss, it will amount to 1% of your account. So you don't need to worry about stop loss. You don't need to worry about take profits. You don't need to worry about the lot size. The EA will do all of that for you if you decide to use, risk percentage. And remember, as your account is growing, the 1% will continue to grow. And in that case, your profit will be like kind of exponential, because your lot size continues to increase as your account size is continuing to increase, and your profit continues to grow exponentially. Right. So you can also set your grid settings to say, I want the trade to edge my trade. I call it edge, but in real sense, it is not edge. It is still a good step. But I mean, it gives you an edge rather than waiting for the market to go all the way to your stop loss. You can just take another trade in the same direction, such that a few movements, 20 pips, 30 pips movement will take you out of the market even before the market will continue to go, to your stop loss. So instead of losing the whole money, you can just take something out of the market rather than losing the trade to your stop loss. That's why I like grid. So you can change the number of grid. So like I said here, I set this to 99. You can change it to whatever you want. Then the lot factor 1.2, you can decide to use. If you use 1, then it continues to use 0.1, 0.1, or 2, same lot size. Then TP. This is good because your TP gives you 3 different type of TP. You can take TP tips from break even. You can use TP money, which means I want this EA to close whenever I reach $500. Then the EA will leave the trade until you meet that $500 target. You can say TP percentage, okay, to say I want you to close the trade when the trade gets to 2% of my balance, okay. So this is good because you just make sure that if you want to trade using 1:2, 1:3, you can set to risk percent. Say, okay, if you risk 1%, you want your TP to be 3%, 4%. You can do 1:4, 1:5, any way you want to plan your risk management. And stop loss also gives you a lot of room. So you can decide to off stop loss if you just want to, keep the EA open, which I don't advise in any case. Then you can use stop loss money, you can use stop loss percentage, you can also use your stop loss in pips. So all of this is just to make sure that there's a lot of room for you to play around your risk management. Okay. Then you can set stop loss money minus 1,000, stop loss percentage minus 2%, stop loss pips minus 1,000 pips. So it depends on how you want to play around the market. Then dynamic TP is only applicable to pips, pips from break even. So you only use dynamic TP when there's a good step. So if you want good step, without good step, use 150 pips. After any good step, use 20 pips, which is just to take you out of the market, quickly rather than losing, on the trade. And so for the prop firm display, you can decide to turn it off or on. And all of these are just some modalities to the robot. Okay, so that is the basic settings on MT4. So I'll just share TradingView, and I'm going to share with you some examples how trades come up on TradingView as well. So it depends. You can go for the indicator on TradingView. You can go for the indicator on MT4, or you can go for the EA. I'm also going to show you the indicator on MT4. Now, the same settings applies to TradingView. You can see, so this trade was the trade that comes up today, which is a sell signal from this supply zone. Okay, so the indicator on TradingView and on MetaTrader actually identifies some key zone, supply and demand zone. So this SF means shark fin, this TDI means TDI cost, and this MBL means market baseline. Okay, so I'll zoom this so you can see what I'm saying. Okay, now, so based on what I was also explaining on the MT4 EA, that when a trade is running, it can take multiple trades. So for instance, this shark fin is when this line move out of the Bollinger Band and cross back in. So if this is the first signal that comes up, the EA will take this trade. And then TDI signal also comes up when this blue moving average cross into the red, then that's TDI. So this one also come up if you set the EA to aggressive, it's also going to pick on this trade as well. Then this market baseline also called, this is when the blue crosses into the yellow moving average. Okay, so this market baseline signal also comes up, so it's going to be running 3 trades at this point, and then when the market all gets to the TP, it closes all these trades. So that's what I was explaining regarding the basket and the number of orders that is on. But if you set the EA, for instance, to conservative, it will only take this shark fin, which is the very first trade that comes up, and we ignore it there, we ignore this one, which means it is only one trade that will trigger your TP. So if you want to be more conservative, and if this territory is also to go, against you and hit the TP, so if you're on aggressive, this territory will hit, stop loss, and if you're on conservative, it is only one of these trades that is going to hit, the stop loss. However, what I was also explaining about the grade system is that when this shark fin comes up at this zone, okay, and then the market move up to this one, let's say you set your grid step to be 150 pips or 100 pips, for instance, and at this point the 100 pips is triggered, it's going to take up another sell, and let's say your TP after had is like 20 or 30 pips, it will close out on this one here. You will not enjoy all this big movement again, because greed has already kicked in. So you get out here, probably it might not even get to your initial entry, and before it will close you out of the market. So it's probably this one and the TDI cross that will be active, or probably TDI might also get triggered with the grid. Both will close out, and it's only market baseline that will, you will probably be able to enjoy the whole movement. So this is just to explain what I showed you on MT4, so you see how the indicator really works. And as you can see in this example, if you have the indicator, for instance, probably you might enjoy all these big movements, from where the signal comes up, because you might not decide not to close this trade where the EA has already set TP for you. Remember, the EA will place TP and stop loss for you. So you might just have maybe 150 pips, 200 pips, depending on where you set your TP. Whereas there's still like 400 pips, 500 pips for you to catch on that particular trade. So when you are trading with the indicator yourself, you might be able to, get more pips than when the EA is trading for you. Everything has its own advantage and disadvantage. Okay, so that is that about this signal. Well, you'll be wondering, why did I pick this buy? I gave this signal on Friday evening, and I know a lot of people were asking me what is the analysis, behind this signal. Why am I buying? But I mean, the EA is doing the work, the indicator is doing the work. You might not understand what is happening back end, but I know what I saw before going for this buy. And you will ask me that there's no signal coming up. How did I know that this is a buy? Now, first, you can see the demand zone, right here. But you can see the candlestick comes pierce into the demand zone. We have a very nice shark fin here. We have market baseline cross, we have TDI cross, but yet the indicator did not pick any trade there. So if you have been used, to the way I trade, first point is for you to be able to identify supply and demand zone, and you can see clearly that there's a demand zone around this zone. Okay, there's demand around this zone, and we are expecting the market to bounce back up, but the indicator is not showing us signal. So this is what I was talking about how wide the zone is. So I'm going to go to the settings on TradingView at the moment. So let's see how we can adjust this zone such that you'll be able to pick this trade. Because I know how I trade, I know when I see a signal that satisfies, my trading style, and I can pick the trade even though the indicator is not showing me. That's why you need to contact me to, turn your idea into automation. I can build, regardless of whatever trading strategy you are using, I can build an indicator for it, I can build an EA for it, and you have to do less of thinking. Okay, so the same indicator, the same process as I've shown you on MT4 also applied. TDI cross, market baseline, shark fin, level guide. You can decide to on it or off it. You can use EMA. In this case, I decide not to use EMA because you get more signal here, and I will show you what that means. For instance, you can see this sell signal here. Okay, you can see this TDI sell signal. Okay, if I decide to turn on use EMA, the signal will disappear because at this point the market is on an uptrend. Okay, the market is in an uptrend. It will not give you any sell signal for whatever reason. Okay, if I take it back on, you can see the signal is coming back on. Okay, now yeah, this is what I was talking about, the demand and supply zone height. If I increase this to 1, you should be able to pick this. Oh, sorry, so it didn't pick any buy at this zone, but look at this zone. Let me take it back down. You see at 0.8, look at this very smooth buy. All right, if you set your zone height to, probably I use 0.5 when I'm trading on EA, just to give it a straighter rule. You see, when I put to 0.5, even this sell did not come up. Okay, so when you decide to give the EA a straighter rule, it will give you relatively more or high probability trade compared to when you are chasing a lot of trades. So when I put to 0.5, the sell disappear. It did not even recognize the buy. Okay, if I increase it to 0.7, the sell comes up. If I increase it to 1, then you can have, because it just widen the zone, the demand and supply zone becomes more widened, so you have higher chances of picking trade. So you can see it picks this buy, because you'll be like, oh, I miss out on this very massive buy. But if you have increased your zone height, you might probably enjoy the trade. So because, just like I said, the more you increase it, the higher chances you continue to get trade. So if I put it to 0.1, it picks this buy trade right here. Another sell came up, I think, around this zone. But it will give you frequent trades, but what's the chances that it's going to be a winning trade? Okay, so I'm just going to take this back to um you've seen what I want to show you there. So the wider the zone, the more trade you get. Also for Fibonacci, so let me stop sharing supply and demand line. The whole signal will disappear. Okay, and let me say, let's use Fibonacci signal. So as you can see in this example, so we have a buy trade here, we have a buy trade here, and this buy trade is as a result of the market bouncing off from the Fibonacci retracement level. Okay, so if you are using only supply and demand, you might probably not get this signal, because let me put it up again. So if I decide to turn off show, the whole signal disappears. If I show supply and demand signal, this signal comes up based on the supply and demand zone. But if you show Fibonacci, you get more signals. Okay, and you can decide to just take everything off. So it depends. But oftentimes I use supply and demand, and when I'm trading on the EA, just like I showed you the example, when I on the Fibonacci and supply and demand, I got more trades, made more profit, but subjected the trades to greater loss. Okay, so it depends on how you want to balance all of that. So that is what I want to show you on TradingView, just for you to see how it picks trades and all of that. And the stricter you make the rule, the better trade you get. All right, so that's how it works. So you can see here, for instance, so this is why some people might like indicator, because if you use EA in this example, picks a good trade. Let me measure the pips. This is about 115 pips in profit. Okay, but because it did not get to your target of 270 pips, you will lose this trade, because the market will just reverse and trigger your stop loss, and you lost the trade. Okay, but if you are trading manually, and you are not just comfortable, or you are seeing the market bouncing up from this zone, let's say for instance you are expecting the market to break this zone with a very strong candle, then you continue to your TP, all of a sudden you see this bank bounce off, can decide to just close the trade manually instead of losing, the trade. So that's why some people might prefer indicator compared to the EA that does not have any emotion, just follow the logic. Okay, so that's basically what I want to show you on TradingView. And let's go back to um, MetaTrader and I'll share with you more backtests. So this is another backtest. Just forget about the prop firm level in this case. So this one lost about 604. The week made about 3,594. Well, what I want to show you in this case is that this is a typical 1:2%. Okay, so lesser trade, 66 trade, winning rate is 42, but was still able to make about $10,000. This is like a 2-month back test. Now, what is the different settings that I used here is that the stop loss in this case is percentage. So I'm risking 1% on a trade and my TP is 2%. So I'm using 1:2. For instance, after this buy, stop loss will be 1%, TP will be 2%, 1%, 2%. And this is a conservative mode. So it only takes one trade at a time. Now let me open TradingView so you see what I'm talking about. So on TradingView, this cell right here, this sell signal right here is what you are seeing here. And what happens? It triggered stop loss. We're out of the trade. Look at this buy here. I don't know if you can see this little buy here. Sorry, I'm using a dark skin, dark background because of the dashboard. I had to use a background. So look at this buy here, triggered TP. The first buy, triggered stop loss. But you are wondering, there's no buy at this zone. So the reason is also because supply and demand in this case is set to 1. So if I decide to put this to 1, just like I explained earlier, you can see the buy. Okay, this buy was the one that triggered TP. This same buy that comes up here. Okay, so the indicator picks the same trade as what you can see on TradingView. Okay, so you can see all of this buy because this is conservative mode. It will only take one buy at a time. So these are all these trades you are seeing here. Look at this sell. Look at this sell right here. This is this sell right here. Okay, the same trade follows the same logic as what you can see on TradingView. This is another example I was giving you. You can see the trade was about 169 pips in profit, but because it did not get to where the 2% profit is, move back and trigger stop loss. So sometimes you have to weigh in the risk to reward, your risk management to determine whatever you want to, what risk you want to use when you are using this EA. For instance, this is another example. Look at this buy. Even though the market later moved up, it triggered stop loss and then the market started reversing. But we have a very nice buy here as well. Okay, so all of these signals are coming up on TradingView. So if you want to manage your trade yourself, you can use the TradingView indicator. You can also use the indicator on MT4. So I'm going to demonstrate that, and that's the last thing I'm going to demonstrate before leaving this place. Okay, so let me just start. What you can see now on the dashboard is level 1 is ongoing, level 2 is locked. So it is until you pass level 1, that is when the level 2 will start coming in. So it can pass level 1 and fail level 2 depending on the drop down or whatever stuff is going on. So let me also install the indicator. So you see how the indicator works on MetaTrader. Now you have to put in the settings. So the settings is correct, level guide. So it's good for you to use the same settings. Use trend filter. So trend filter is on. I can't remember if this is set to 0.1 or 0.5, but I will off the trend filter because I just want you to see how it picks trade, and I'll stop. So it's doing the supply zone and demand zone. So because we do not have any crossover here, that's why I did not pick any trade. So it's doing the same supply zone and demand zone as you can see them on. So a sell came up here, but because the settings on the EA is different from the settings on on the indicator. That's why it's not picking this trade. Remember, a sell came up here. Remember, on the EA, the trend filter is on. So if I install moving average, at this moment, you should know moving average 50 and 200 should be uptrend. You should know that one. I'm not going to install it, and that's why it's not picking on all these cells that is coming up. Okay, but the signal is coming up from the indicator. Okay, until we have a buy signal, that is when the EA will take a trade, because I decided, because I don't want to bore you, I just want to show you how the indicator picks its own trade. That's the reason for doing this. I'm just waiting to see a valid signal, then you will understand it was. So you can see this now. Now on this demand zone, you can see the demand zone. The indicator gave us the signal. The EA also picked the signal. The reason is because the trend is up. So now let me install the moving average. So level 200 and level 50. Okay, now it's on. So that's why all the cells that was coming up here, the EA is ignoring them. Okay, until it satisfies the condition that this is an uptrend, the TDI. So let me also install TDI just for you to see what is going on. So I will install now. What you can see now is that, look at this. We have TDI cross. This is level 50. Level guide is off. So regardless of where the stuff is crossing, the signal will also come up. So we have two signal coming up. The first one is the TDI cross. The second one is the market baseline cross. This is why we have two signal running. Remember, we are running aggressive. So now if you check basket is 2, number of orders is 2, total lot size is 2. So we have 0.1, 0.1, 2 trades, 2 order, 2 basket. So when there is a grid, then it changes. Okay, so currently float is 131. Let's just see how this trade will end, then I'll stop. I don't know. Oh, sorry. So the TP is set to 2%. So it is until it triggers 2% of equity. As you can see, the trade is currently running about 470, 477, dollars at the moment, the two trades. So the TP is quite high, and that's why it did not trigger. This is a lot of pips for you to catch. So this is how it actually works. If a new signal comes up, it will also take it. If the signal is not coming up, you know, it will just wait to close this one. This is how aggressive work. If it is conservative, it will only take just this trade and will not take the second one. All right. So you can see the market also reacting from this supply zone. And this is how the indicator continues to adjust itself um based on the levels. So I'm going to stop this now. You can see how the indicator works. Sorry, this is not part of the indicator. I'm just using this to show you how so this is the indicator you'll be getting. Shows you the demand and supply zone, and the signal comes up if there's any reaction around this zone. This blue dotted line is the so you can see the market is also buying at this blue zone. So this blue zone is the Fibonacci level, okay, and that's why it's buying. So you see the trade is floating at 721 pips, and it has not closed because remember the TP is set to 2%. It's quite high. I didn't realize that before playing the. So this is just for you to see how it works. I just hope so. Yeah, this three of these triggered TP, right? And that's 529, and I still have 1014 floating at the moment. Okay, I don't know if this is going to get triggered. Oh man. So, but this is how the EA works. Continue to pick supply and demand. Continues to pick the Fibonacci level. If it's triggered TP, fine. If not, continues to move in the opposite direction. All right. So now that's what I want to share with you. I hope you like my EA. If you want to buy, so it's close. The other trade. it closed the other trade. What happened? So profit for the day 652, for the profit for the week 118 for the year. So you can see at this level now, it passed level 1 and now level 2 is ongoing. So you have 9.2% prop firm profit. Okay, so now you can track, how much you made for the day, how much you make for the week, and something like that. All right, I'll see you on another video.
So guys, thank you for watching to this moment. If you have watched this video to this moment, it shows you are really interested in my indicator and EA, and I hope I've been able to explain how it works and how you can use this EA and indicator. For more information, you can send me an email at afscoach@gmail.com. And if you are interested in my service for me to help you transform your trading idea, your trading strategy into an indicator or into an EA that trades for you and will trade just as you like to trade, kindly send me an email as well and we can talk. All right, see you on next video. Bye.